You are listening to Audio SSLC, your audio medium for easy understanding and revision. To download a copy of this recording, please visit audioSSLC.com. Sociology, Unit 3, Social Movements. In this unit you learn meaning, nature, origin and evolution of social movement, environment movement, women's movement, alcohol prohibition movement, farmers movement, workers movement, untouchability prohibition movements. Social movement, meaning and nature. Social movement is related to a natural resistant social process that is related to social mobility, changes and transitions. A social movement is a planned one, which means every movement has a goal and plans to achieve it through a program of action. This movement is natural, as they have been happening, happened, and will be happening in future too. They have been part of human society since its evolution. It is natural for any organism to oppose things when something challenges its very existence. Human beings are also part of this process. Many movements have been taking place and have taken place opposing exploitation at personal as well as community level. Resistance offered at personal level is not called as social movement. A social movement is community-based program. Among various community processes, social movement is important and unique. A social movement is a social platform that enables people to showcase their needs and visions. People who participate in these social movements undergo many unexpected changes, go through new experiences, and develop new social practices. An example of this is that of Mahatma Gandhi. He believed in the beginning that God is truth. After he interacted with people like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and others, finally stated, "Truth is God." This is the result of Gandhiji's interaction with various personalities in various social movements. Hence, every social movement creates new models of social changes. Before the 19th century, most of the environment resource was a public property. With the emergence of industrialization, governments and private companies started claiming ownership on them. Many legal provisions were brought in to control such initiatives. Prohibitions were put on use of natural fuel. This curtailed the access of tribal people who are dependent on this in their natural setting. Many reformers raised their voice against this. The farmers' movements, environment movements, women's movements, and other social movements have to be understood from this background. Social movements have taken place in all places and in all times. Many movements have brought in permanent social changes. Indian independence movement is one such example that has brought in permanent change. Some movements fail to leave permanent impacts. In the history of India, we come across many movements like Bhakti movement leaving a strong impact on the society. People like Buddha, Mahavira, Basava, Sharanas, Dasas, Sufis, and Ambedkar have fought and led movements against caste system. This system allowed upward mobility. Origin and evolution of movements. Usually in our daily life, we come across many minor frictions in the social life. Many of them arise there itself and vanish later. They create temporary mobility for a moment. These are recognized as the beginning of the social movement. At later stage, mob assembles, leading to mob violence. Many a times, without any favorable circumstance also, violence starts. Mob. Mob is a collection of people which collects in place and indulges in a temporary thinking, demands, and the related emotional expression. This expression is called mob behavior. These type of sources later turn into social movements. A mob is a collection of people who have assembled at a particular point without any prior plan and gathered to express some decision. A group of people who have collected in front of a theater to watch, or a group of people who have gathered around to know more about an incident, are examples of mobs. Many times, unrestrained behavior of people gathered in a mob reflects social shortcomings of that particular society. Often, people express their dissatisfaction with many social institutions. People also express their dissatisfaction with many government policies, attitudes, and decisions on specific programs. Mob violence. Mob violence is another example of mob behavior. When the behavior of mob turns violent, then it is called as mob violence. There will be no unity in mob violence. Here, antisocial elements lead the mob towards violence, destroying public property. They create confusion in the beginning. Out of confusion, violence grows out. Many a times, mob violence results in major deaths. There would be no definitive reasons for the behavior of mob in violent mood. They create a serious law and order situation. Communal violence, racial violence, caste violence, political violence are some of the examples. This violence has now become active in rural areas also. Many issues, caste, land, and religion have become the motivating factors. Mob violence leads to the dominance of antisocial elements. Mob violence does not last for longer duration. They come to an end at one point of time. Mob violence is controllable through effective use of police, military, and other agencies of the government. Environmental movements. Environmental movements are the scientific movements aimed at preserving the biological system. The scientific protest aimed at curtailing the various activities that are polluting the earth, air, and water. They never appear instantly. They are the result of many years of exploitations of nature and tribal people. For example, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha was formed in the year 1973. But before 1930, tribal people of Jharkhand had opposed the actions of companies that rendered thousands of tribal people displaced due to mining activities. Jharkhand Mukti Morcha is one such result of these agitations. Many movements started emerging after various developmental activities funded by the World Bank resulted in the displacement of tribal people. All the movements opposing raising global temperature, exploitation of water resources are grouped under environmental movements. Many intellectuals and academicians have joined hands with the common people in holding movements to protect environment. Now let's understand various environmental movements in brief. Chipko movement. The government had issued license to cut 2,500 trees belonging to Reni village of Tehri Garhwal district. The women who learnt about this decided to hug the trees in order to protect them so that environment remains protected. This movement of hugging is called as Chipko movement in 1974. Though a woman was instrumental behind this movement, its effects were long-lasting. Due to this movement, the permission given to cut the trees was withdrawn. Apical Movement of Karnataka. The Apical Movement was started in 1983 by the villagers of Salyani. The local people opposed the move of the contractor to cut trees in Kalase forest. They stood hugging the trees. The people launched this movement to protect trees from smuggling. They also aimed at increasing awareness among the people about the importance of growing forest. Narmada Bachao Andolana. The huge dam built across the river Narmada under Sardar Sarovar project displaced local tribal people. As scientific studies found that the dam would affect the sensitive ecological balance of the river, the people agitated against the dam under the leadership of Medha Patkar. This movement has been going on for a long period. Silent Valley Movement. A dam was proposed to build in the Silent Valley of Palghat of Kerala. The building of dam threatened the sensitive ecological balance of the Silent Valley. People from Kerala Shastra Parishad and wildlife enthusiasts opposed this project. Finally, the movement was successful in stalling the dam and protecting the Silent Valley's sensitive ecological balance. Coastal Karnataka Environment Movement. People of Mangalore opposed against the Mangalore refineries and Petrochemical Limited, which discharged harmful chemicals into the sea, threatening the local environment. This movement also opposed the establishment of Nandikuru Thermal Power Plant and Special Economic Zone. Movement opposing Kiger Nuclear Power Plant. The move to oppose the establishment of Kiger Nuclear Plant was undertaken by the people of coastal Karnataka under the leadership of Shivarama Karanta. It was argued that with the establishment of nuclear plant at Kiger, vast deforestation takes place, and also the threat of pollution from nuclear radiation would spoil numerous species in the ecosystem. Hence, the movement opposed the establishment of the Kiger nuclear reactor. People like Medha Patkar, Sundarlal Bahuguna, and others have agitated for a long time to achieve success in their endeavor. Only in case of environment movements, mass hunger protests have taken place after the attainment of independence. Ecology is not an independent science, it's a part of life. Women's movement. Among all the mass movements that took place during 1980s across the political parties, women's movement is very important. It is a movement that opposed the patriarchal values exploiting women and the creation of inequality on the basis of gender. Even in the literary world, many books have come out portraying the various alternative ideas against exploitation of women. In spite of all these protests, the number of women affected by dowry is still high. The exploitation of women in the independent India have underwent a lot of transformation. The patriarchal values that consider women as a mere slave has created inequalities in the society. In these unequal situations, women are subjected to physical and mental abuse, dowry harassment, rape, and other exploitations every day. Domestic violence has curtailed the independence of women within the house and also outside the house. The exploitation of women has taken new forms like acid attacks, kidnaps, and human trafficking. The earlier honor of clan has transformed into honor killing. Women are denied many rights explained in our Constitution under Articles 14, 15, 16, and 39 for equal rights for work and wages. The women's movement is a movement that strives to achieve these goals. Now let's learn more about these movements. Alcohol Prohibition Movement. Among various movements designed by the women, pressing for alcohol prohibition is an important one. This movement is different as a lot of women have shown a lot of unity in this struggle. Total alcohol prohibition was a part of freedom struggle. Gandhiji proposed the total prohibition concept during the freedom struggle. This also became part of Chipko movement. It also became part of environmental movements that took place in coastal Karnataka and in Malenadu. Kusma Soraba and others along with her have lost their lives. Apart from this, women have protested against the sale of liquor in Hassan, Kolar, Mandya and Chamrajnagar district. Alcoholism creates a lot of problems at personal level as well as community level. It has created severe problems in lives of rural women. The laborers lose their small earnings to this addiction. They often forcibly take away money earned by the wife also. Hence, women have to come together to organize protests against alcoholism, which has created a lot of problems in their life. Activity. Enact one act plays depicting various problems faced by women and girls in the society in general and in classroom in specific. Farmers' movement. The farmers' movements began with the denial of land tax. Later, they tried to express their problem in the face of economic problems besieged their community during the later part of 21st century. During 1980s, among all the social movements, it is the farmers' movement that is more important. During 1970s, D. Devaraja Urs became the Chief Minister of Karnataka and ushered in various social reformations. He strived to bring in various legal measures to free the downtrodden from the shackles of caste system. Measures were taken to free farmers from the clutches of tenancy system and bonded labor. Apart from releasing the farmer from debt, the minister, Mr. Basavalingappa, tried to eradicate the practice of carrying night soil on the head. In the later duration, farmers' movements were organized to attract the attention of the government for the various problems faced by the farmers. The governments tried to tackle the farmers' movement as politically motivated movement by using police ordering firing and lathi charge. In 1980, the farmers of Naragund revolted against the government's attempts to use force against the farmers. The farmers' revolt of Naragund was not only a protest of high-handedness of the police, it was also a total pro-farmers movement. After the Naragund revolt, the farmers' movement leader, Professor M.D. Nanjundaswamy, a socialist, founded Karnataka State Raita Sangha. This organization came into existence with the presidentship of Rudrappa, a Gandhian from Shivamogga. Professor M.D. Nanjundaswamy was named as the convener, and N.D. Sundaresh was named as the secretary of the organization. It put forth various conditions. Due to unscientific price fixation, the farmers are in distress, and hence the government should stop seizure of the properties of the farmers for their debts. Villages which lack infrastructure should be developed immediately. Villages should get their share out of their resources extracted. Levy system should be stopped, and many other demands were placed. Even today, the farmers' movements are going on. Very recently, the farmers protested against the Mahadayi and Kaveri river water sharing judgments of the courts. Activity: organize group discussion on issues faced by the farmers with the local farmers and encourage the children to participate in it actively. Labor movements. Usually, labor movement or trade unions represent the ordinary workers. Labor movement is a movement demanding better working conditions and pay for the workers, along with the demand for the implementation of labor-related legal provisions. The movement that is held through the trade unions is also called as labor movements. In many countries, trade unions have also become the political parties. Pro-labor philosophy has been evolving in opposition to the exploitation of the capitalism. In European countries, due to industrialization, there was a drop in the employments available in agricultural sector and more employment were there in the industrial sector. This resulted in the migration of workers towards industries. This led to overexploitation of workers. They were forced to work for longer hours. The laborers became aware of this exploitation and became organized, opposing these developments. During the 19th century, workers' parties and trade unions started organizing workers all over the world. The International Working Men's Association is the first labor union established in London in the year 1864. Main aim of this association was to protect the interest of the workers. They wanted to implement 8 hours shift of working only. The labor movement spread to other parts of the world during later part of 19th century. In order to protect the social security of workers, the Government of India implemented Act in 1923 to ensure social security. This act helped the Indian trade unions. The various associations could gain legislative recognitions. After this, many laborers' unions were started and they have continued to protect the rights of the workers. There are many labor unions who have continued with the work. Untouchability Prevention Movement. Untouchability is an inhuman practice of stratified society. Before the implementation of Constitution, the ideas like untouchables should be untouched, should not stand next to him, were in vogue. Untouchability Prevention Movement is a movement aimed at achieving eradicating of the practice of untouchability and attacks on the untouchable people. It is a movement against caste-based social exploitation. The untouchable communities have been fighting for their rights for many years. We shall see a brief history of this movement. The history of prohibition of untouchability movement. The history of untouchability opposition movement in the 19th century. Jyotiba Phule organized a movement including untouchables and backward classes. The aim of the movement was to oppose Varna system and resist the dominance of caste social system. With this aim, various movements were started in states like Karnataka, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh during 1917. By 1925, Periyar Ramaswamy started self-importance movement in Tamil Nadu. With idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar on gender discrimination, untouchability, the movement became more powerful. In the Round Table Conference of 1930s, Ambedkar called for the untouchables to become the rulers of India. Ambedkar continued his fight for the rights of Dalits. Ambedkar continued to assert the rights of untouchables and women throughout his life. He started a periodical named Mookanayaka and was instrumental in creation of various movements against the practice of untouchability. Gandhiji considered the liberation from untouchability along with the national freedom. He was a social reformer. Even today, many organizations and associations are active in the work of eradication of these evil practices. Exercises. Fill in the blanks. 1. Environmental movements mean dash. 2. Narmada Bachao movement is led by dash. 3. Dr. Shivaram Karant opposed the establishment of dash nuclear power plant. 4. Women movement means dash. Next, discuss in groups and answer in 2 or 3 sentences. 1. What are the models of mob behavior? 2. What is women's movement? Give examples. 3. Explain the nature of mob. 4. Explain the environmental movements, their meaning and nature. Next in the activities, 1. Meet people who have participated in women or environmental or Dalit movements and interact with them. Collect more information on these organizations. 2. Discuss with women how the women's movement has improved their self-confidence and social attitude. In the project, please collect more information on the various types of environmental and forest movements in India based on newspaper clippings.